Hello friends, I am going to dictate you the dictation from GDBIST volume number 4 at the speed of 100 WPM. So be ready. 5 seconds. Start. Madam, I would request the honorable members to ponder over why we had to go in for manufacturing trucks in the defense sector. That is why our government has decided that we should have self-reliance and we should have indigenization in the defense sector. The allocation, which was only rupees 1200 crores, has now been increased to rupees 1800 crores, and for research and development the allocation was rupees 400 crores has now been raised to rupees 600 crores. That is why this government has decided that whatever is possible to be done in the defense sector should be done there only, and that is why there are many ordnance factories. I can assure the House that I have gone through the report of the ministry, and I am convinced that during the last 1 year our ordnance factories and the defense public sector units have done excellent work. I would like to give some picture of the performance of our ordnance factories and our defense public sector units. Secondly, Pakistan has been given large massive aid. I do not want to have a war psychology at all. We have got so many public sector industries, and many of them have the capacity to immediately switch over to other defense equipments. I have visited some factories and discussed with some officials. Suppose there is need at some moment, then we can immediately switch over. I will give a small example. In my house town in Gujarat, there is the Loco workshop. During the Second World War, the factory was converted into an ordnance factory. They were able to produce armaments and ammunition. That is why I requested the Honorable Minister that that should be done. If the infrastructure can be created by public sector undertakings, this can help the defense sector. It must be done in the mind of the Honorable Minister, and I am sure he must be going in that direction. Now I will talk about ex-servicemen. There are 4 million ex-servicemen in this country. Madam, what have we done for them? I was surprised when I saw the figures. Even the reserved quota for ex-servicemen in our public sector undertakings has not been completed. In some cases, we have been able to do only 30%. So, I would like that whatever quotas have been fixed in the public sector undertakings, 100% quota you feel. We would like him to take up this matter with the public sector industries and see that the ex-servicemen quota is completely filled. I was surprised that even in the case of the industries under the Defense Department in the public sector, out of 1 lakh and odd, the total development is only 8,000 ex-servicemen. I would like to request the Honorable Minister to see that as far as industries under the Defense Department are concerned, wherever available, ex-servicemen must be given priority and others should be taken afterwards. Mr. Deputy Chairman, we find that the Defense Minister has introduced this Navy bill. As he had said in his preliminary remarks, we are not going to discuss the size of our Navy nor the number of cruisers and the like. But I cannot fail drawing his attention to the fact that he has introduced a very big bill and a very voluminous bill about a navy which is microscopically small. Besides our navy being microscopically small, our mercantile marine also is very small. The whole merchant fleet is very small. I feel that the Honorable Minister, who comes from a maritime state, has a soft corner for the merchant navy and therefore he has introduced this voluminous bill before us. The Honorable Minister has stated that this bill is modelled on the tradition of the United Kingdom. It is very obvious that it is so, and anybody reading through this bill will come to the conclusion that in many cases it is a blind imitation of the tradition in the United Kingdom. But let me submit that tradition in the United Kingdom is out of date, and in imitating this tradition, we have gone astray and we are introducing in this bill many theories which the Second World War has completely exploded. Therefore, when this bill is being referred to the Joint Select Committee, I submit that the Joint Select Committee should very carefully examine the various provisions contained in this bill. In this connection, I would just try to point out a few lines on which this bill should be improved. It is really a big bill and it will not be possible for me to examine all the clauses, but I will restrict myself to only two main items. One is the clause which relates to discipline. Much has been made of discipline. It was a tradition in the 19th century in the army and the navy that discipline was everything. I feel that many of the clauses about discipline in this bill are influenced by that mental outlook of blind following, of a blind obedience to orders, whether sensible or insensible. I am afraid the honorable member has not read the clauses and he thinks that following the charge in the light brigade is the best ideal in the modern warfare. If I proceed a little further, I will point out to him what has been the attitude of the fighting forces in the Second World War, and in modeling our bills, that type of legislation should have been introduced in it. Sir, I was saying that nowadays even a soldier in any modern army is an educated man. He knows his responsibilities and his duties. How wonderfully the post and telegraph men behaved. I do wish that The honorable member had spoken first so that he could have explained his point of view and I could have answered his points. The whole question is about our attitude towards the relationship.